I've set up a coding challenge to test the new Codex 5.3 model by OpenAI against the new Opus 4.6 model by Anthropic. We're going to be building an e-commerce app called Shoe that sells retro-inspired shoes. We're going to use the same PRD document for each model and work with Next.js and Supabase. Now, the criteria I'm looking at is build time, cost, developer experience, technical implementation, design quality, and then the overall winner. So I've loaded up Cursor with Codex, so let's get started. So I've got Cursor open. I have changed to GPT-5.3 Codex. Let me just walk you through how we're going to orchestrate this particular test. So I've created a PRD document, and this is going to be shared between both Codex and Opus for this coding challenge. At the top, I've got an overview, and this was created by AI based on just a paragraph and a few specifications that I added. But generally speaking, we've got an e-commerce platform specializing in vintage and classic sneakers. This is the tech stack. We're using Next.js 16, Tailwind, and we're using a local Supabase database that's going to be running on Docker. So I wanted some sort of technical challenges here on the database side. So Codex, first of all, is going to have to create some mock data and then create the tables in Supabase and then seed those tables. I've got some more stuff here, not too important. The important thing is it's both the same for Opus and Codex, but the success criteria is key to this challenge. I've got 10 steps here, starting with what I want the user to experience on the site, being able to browse products, change sizes of the shoes, add them to a cart, mock checkout, etc. It obviously needs to look good and be fully responsive. Okay, so on the left-hand side, I'm saying create this build based on the PRD. I'm just going to retag this PRD. I said that Docker is running for our local Supabase instance, and it needs to complete and test the entire build. So I'm going to start the clock. It's 8:09 in the morning, and let's see how we get on. So the first thing it's going to do is going to read the PRD document, all right, in its entirety, and it's going to start following instructions. I suspect it's going to set up Supabase first, but we'll have a look. And I'm wondering if it's going to create a to-do list. That's something I really like about Opus and Sonnet, is it creates a to-do list, and you can just see the breakdown of the steps it's going to take. Okay, so it's identified that we have Supabase, that the local development is running, and I might need to stick around and just accept a few actions that it needs to run. But aside from that, I'm hoping that this is going to be mostly hands-off. So I'm going to fast forward here. Let's see how it gets on. I wanted to quickly let you know about my 2 flagship Coding with AI courses. The first course teaches you how to build a complete full-stack SaaS app using Cursor. You'll integrate essential tools like Stripe for payments, AI services, and email, all while building with Next.js, Supabase, and Vercel. It's everything you need to go from zero to production-ready web apps. The second course is for anyone who wants to build a native mobile apps with Cursor. You'll learn how to create a fully functional app with in-app payments, push notifications, AI features, and email integrations. And you'll finish by deploying your app to the Apple App Store and Google Play. And the best part, you don't need to know how to code. I'll teach you how to think like a product engineer and guide the AI model to build your app with you. If there's ever been a time to learn how to build with AI, it's right now. So come join me. Okay, so that took around 11 minutes. It had a few linting problems that I was able to self-heal. It created a local Supabase instance and seeded the database with just some shoes it found on Unsplash. And let's see if these shoes actually match the vibe we're going for, vintage and retro. So I'm running this in Cursor, a little browser preview. I'm going to close the PRD, bring this across a bit, and I quite like it actually. Good contrast on the text, These are vintage Nike sneakers. Scrolling down, we've got some featured products. Interesting. Okay, so if I say shop now, I suspect this might be, we'll have a look at responsive in a moment. But if I say ASICS, so it is filtering ASICS, Converse, it's filtering Converse, and if I click on Converse, that's pretty great. Change the shoe size, add to cart. If I go to my cart, so it's added some demo data to the cart, but it's pretty much working. Let me just remove these guys. So 283, if I change this to 1, this is actually filtering and working quite well. If I go proceed to checkout, that looks pretty good. Let me actually view this on a larger browser. Okay, so here we are in the actual browser itself. Ah, that's better. Notice one of these images not pulling in, but it's not a massive deal. But I like that when I hover, I can see another variant of the shoe. No description, but that's not part of the criteria. The main criteria is functionality. So I'm pretty happy with that. Change this to 2, proceed to checkout. Amazing. Go home. Let's have a look at responsive. So let's get this a touch wider. What happens if we look at the cart? Cart looks great. Menu, home. I mean, this is pretty good, I must say. Proceed to checkout. I mean, it's hard to deduct many points, but of course, we need to see it side by side with Opus 4.6, so I'll be doing that next. So, backend, again, fresh Next.js project, exact same starting point, exact same PRD, and same starting chat. I've changed to Opus 4.6, not using any of these thinking models, just the standard 4.6. Right, the time is 25 past 8, and I'm going to get this going, and I'll see for the results. Okay, so here's the handy to-do list that I mentioned that Anthropic models love to use. I really love it. So it's a checkbox system, and I just walk through all of the steps. And as a developer, that's really nice to be able to see everything sort of broken down. So that is lacking on the Codex side. So I'm going to award points probably to Opus for this. Okay, so here we go. That took 13 minutes, so 2 minutes longer than Codex. It did run into more linting problems on the TypeScript side. It had some types that it had to reconfigure. So not as smooth. What I will say is that the developer experience in terms of the language and the style it outputs in the chat did actually feel better. And I'd really like the to-do list. But let's have a look at the output. Okay, so quite a different design, all good. Scrolling down, it looks like the Supabase database was populated. We're using the Unsplash API. And it did a little bit more design, I'd say. If we say shop now, we've got our filters. Those appear to be working. Let's click one of these shoes. Variants work. We've got sizing. I can add it to cart. Let's have a look at the cart. Does this work? Yep, that all works. Proceed to checkout, and very similar from the checkout experience. Let's have a look at it in the browser as well. So here is the full navbar at the top. Let's have a look at these sneakers. I like that it scrolls back to the top quite easily. Add to the cart. Change the quantity. Proceed to checkout. I love that I can see this here as well. Great. And responsive. Okay, looking pretty good. There's my cart, perfectly responsive. Ooh, bit of an issue there when the cart is showing. How do I close this down? Let me refresh. Oh, continue shopping. That's fine. I don't love this on responsive, but this is all good. Go back to the landing page. Pretty close. Here is a side-by-side test, so we can really just, zone in on the design here. So left is Codex, right is Opus. Scroll down to the featured products, both. Very, very similar. Scrolling down a bit more, what comes after this? Scrolling down a bit more on the right-hand side on Opus. So Opus added a little bit more, okay, create a bit more code, and much better footer on the Opus side. If we go to shop now on each, from a responsive design angle, I mean, a little bit better. Obviously, we are much smaller at the moment. Let's go to this size here. But again, both pretty much similar, nothing much to it. We've got this nice footer over here. Codex doesn't have much of a footer, but all functional. Let's click into some products here and here. All functional. Opus just seems to write a little bit more code, I feel. Change the sizing. Add to cart, add to cart. Open the carts. Let's remove this. Remember, Codex is on the left. Pretty much identical. Proceed to checkout, proceed to checkout. Again, Opus wrote a bit more code, a bit more detail, I would say, added the item I'm purchasing on the right-hand side. Shipping address, but otherwise all very similar. I do feel that I think it's more creative what Codex has done with the design in the hero as opposed to this design here. I guess the choice of shoe doesn't really matter because this is AI, but it was really like the layout that I was interested in. And this is sort of centered on the left. It's a bit awkward, I would say. Whereas this is all about the fold, bottom left-hand corner. Yeah, I prefer it. Talk through the conclusions of this challenge. Let's talk about time first of all. Codex took 11 minutes and Opus took 13 minutes. Now, there's not much in that, but Opus had more linting problems to resolve, some TypeScript issues to resolve. But again, 2 minutes more, I'm going to call that pretty even, okay? In terms of cost, Codex came in, I'm quite surprised by this, quite high, at 4.07 million tokens, and that's approximately $11. Opus, on the other hand, came in at 2.52 million tokens at approximately $7. So quite a big difference there, and I was quite surprised. And going through the designs and the implementation, the results were very, very similar. So Opus significantly cheaper, and I'm pleasantly surprised by that, actually. I thought it would have been the other way around. Now, in terms of the developer experience, what I'm talking about here is how the models communicate with me as the developer. Am I able to understand instructions? How often does it need me to intervene, etc.? And I thought Opus was a little bit better. I love the to-do list that it creates. I kind of know where I am in the process, whereas Codex sort of just gets started and lets you know when it's done. And if it does a good job, I guess that's okay. But overall, I do just prefer a little bit more structure and to understand where I am as a developer in the process. So if we go into the technical implementation, Codex was slightly better at a very small margin. It just had less errors, very few linting problems to deal with. So pretty happy with Codex. I would pick that as a winner on the technical implementation. On the design implementation, I'm going to call it a tie. There are certain things I liked on Codex, such as the hero image and the hero layout. I thought was more creative. But then Opus, in terms of the filtering and some responsive stuff, I thought was slightly smarter as well. Opus also built a little bit more, but useful things that I would probably build anyway. So Opus gets a slightly ahead here, but pretty much the same. And so in terms of overall winner, I've got to say that I would be using Opus in this instance just because of cost. Now I need to do more cost analysis. Of course, this is just one challenge. It could swing both ways depending on how many, if it writes any bad code or if it gets stuck in a loop of trying to solve problems. But overall, I'm going to give it to Opus and on to the next challenge.